My parents used my savings for my sister's honeymoon, without asking, so I took them to court and left them crying in small claims. I'm a 25-year-old guy, and in my family, I've always been the backup plan. Not the golden child, not the problem child, just the spare. My sister Melissa, she was the crown jewel from day one. Voted homecoming queen twice, head of student council, dated the quarterback, got a full ride to a fancy liberal arts college out of state. My parents would beam just saying her name, like she validated their entire existence. Me? I was the quiet one who didn't cause trouble. I got solid grades, never got detention, started working at a grocery store at 16, and helped pay for my own textbooks in high school. But no matter what I did, it was always, "That's nice. Have you seen Melissa's new dance video?" Or, "Why don't you try to be a little more like your sister?" It didn't make me bitter, at least not at first. I just accepted that I had to build things for myself. So I started saving early. Every birthday card with cash, every dollar from mowing lawns, every paycheck from the grocery store, I stashed it. I wanted my own car, my own place, independence. My parents used to tease me about it. "You're so frugal," my dad would say. "Save like your sister spends." My mom would chime in, "Good thing one of you is practical." I thought it was harmless, encouraging even. What I didn't realize back then was that every time they smiled at my savings habits, they weren't just proud, they were planning, and they already saw my money as something they could use, something that should go to the family, not something that belonged to me. But I wouldn't understand just how far that belief went until the day I checked my bank account. A few months ago, Melissa got engaged to her boyfriend, Tyler. He's the kind of guy who talks with his sunglasses on indoors and brags about crypto gains that never seem to show up in his bank account. But my parents adored him, said he had big ambition, whatever that meant. They threw an engagement party that looked like it came straight off Pinterest. A backyard tented setup with fairy lights, catered food, champagne towers, even a violinist playing live music. I remember standing there in my button-up shirt from Target, watching Melissa twirl around in a white designer dress while everyone clapped like she was royalty. I pulled my dad aside and asked, "Did you win the lottery or something?" He just laughed, handed me a glass of champagne, and said, "It's your sister's big day. Nothing's too good for her." I let it go, but a weird feeling settled in my chest. My parents weren't wealthy. We lived in a modest house, drove used cars, and talked about money like it was always just out of reach. Still, I figured maybe they'd saved up for this. Maybe they'd pulled some strings. Maybe they'd taken out a small loan. But then I checked my bank account 2 days later, just a routine glance. I nearly dropped my phone. Over $6,000 was gone. I stared at the transaction history like it was a glitch. But there it was, a withdrawal processed manually at the bank, the branch down the street from our house. I felt my whole body go cold. That account was mine. I'd opened it at 17. No one else had access. No one was supposed to. I rushed to the bank the next morning, heart pounding, already knowing I wasn't going to like what I was about to hear. I walked into the bank half drenched from rain, clutching my hoodie tight like that could hold my sanity together. I asked to speak with someone about a possible fraud on my account. They took me into a little glass office, handed me tissues like I was already supposed to cry. I pulled up my account and pointed to the withdrawal. This wasn't me. I didn't authorize it. The woman behind the desk, Stephanie, her name tag said, typed something, glanced at the screen, then tilted her head. "It looks like this transaction was done in branch, with ID and signature." "Whose signature?" I asked, stomach tight. She turned the monitor. "My dad's name, his handwriting." I stared at it in silence. But this is my account. Only my name's on it." Stephanie hesitated. "Actually, this is still listed as a minor to joint account. It was opened when you were under 18, and it was never converted to full individual access. I felt sick. I'd opened that account at 17 with my dad co-signing, and just assumed once I turned 18 it became mine alone. No one told me otherwise, no bank alerts, no notifications, just a quiet back door into my life savings. I left the bank holding a printed transaction slip like it was a death certificate. That money was for my car, my future, my exit, and now it was floating in Melissa's mimosa or wrapped around her neck in a Cartier box. I walked home in silence, rain still hitting my shoulders, and all I could think was, they didn't even ask me. They just took. And the worst part? I hadn't even confronted them yet. I didn't even make it through the front door before it started boiling out of me. I tossed the soggy transaction slip on the kitchen table and said, "You stole from me." My dad glanced up from his coffee like I'd asked about the weather. "Watch your tone." I didn't. "You withdrew over $6,000 from my savings. That was my money. You had no right." My mom came in from the laundry room, wiping her hands on a dish towel like this was just a chore to be folded away. "We didn't steal anything. It's for your sister. She's starting a new life." "You used me," I said, voice cracking. "You didn't even ask. You just took it like I didn't matter." My dad leaned back and said, "You're being dramatic. It's not like you were using it. You're still living at home. We figured you'd understand." Understand? Like it was some shared account for family emergencies, and Melissa's honeymoon in Santorini was a natural disaster. My mom added, "We thought you'd feel proud. Your hard work helped make her big day beautiful." I actually laughed. It sounded more like a bark. "You spent my hard work and told yourselves a story about generosity. That's not pride. That's theft dressed in love language." Melissa walked in mid-rant, saw my face, and rolled her eyes. "Seriously? It's just money. You'll make more. Don't be such a martyr." That was the moment something in me cracked. Not just anger, but recognition. They didn't feel guilty. They felt entitled. And when people think they're entitled to your sacrifices, they'll never believe they owe you an apology. I didn't yell after that. I just walked away, sat in my room, and stared at the empty space where freedom used to live, in the form of a bank balance. I needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy, that I had a right to feel violated. So I called the one person I thought might understand, my grandmother. She helped raise me when my parents were both working overtime. She was the one who taught me how to bake bread, how to fold a fitted sheet, how to keep money tucked away for your own one day. I thought if anyone would back me up, it'd be her. She picked up on the second ring, chipper as always. "Hey, sweetheart, everything okay?" I told her everything. The savings, the withdrawal, the bank account loophole. I kept my voice steady, but my hands were shaking the whole time. When I finished, she went quiet for a second too long. Then she sighed. "Oh, honey, it was for Melissa's wedding. These things only happen once." I blinked. "Grandma, they stole from me. They didn't even ask." I know. It's not ideal," she said gently. "But family sacrifices sometimes. You'll have your turn. This was hers." Something heavy settled in my chest. Disappointment laced with something sharper. "So I'm just supposed to roll over because she's the one getting married?" "Honey," she said, like I was a child who spilled juice on the rug. "Don't let a little money divide the family. Let it go." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I just stared at the cracks in my ceiling and felt something familiar returning. That quiet shame of being the one who doesn't get it. I hung up without saying goodbye. That night I opened a spreadsheet and started documenting every dollar, every date, every piece of proof. If even Grandma wasn't going to stand by me, I had to stand by myself. A few days later, Melissa's Instagram lit up with a new post. Pre-honeymoon vibes. I stared at the screen in disbelief. First picture, her and Tyler lounging in what looked like a private cabana, tropical drinks in hand. Next slide, her wrapped in a spa robe, grinning with a glass of champagne beside an oceanfront infinity pool. The caption read, "Bali is everything. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for the most magical gift of love." I could barely breathe. That wasn't a honeymoon. It was a soft, launch luxury vacation before the real honeymoon. I scrolled through the comments, hearts, fire emojis. You guys deserve this. Couple goals. And all I could think was, my money bought those damn orchids on that bedspread. That night, I stood in front of my beat-up car, the one I'd been saving to replace for 3 years. The windshield had a spiderweb crack that I duct-taped. The back right tire was bald, and inside the glove box, a folder with job applications for places I couldn't even commute to because my car wasn't safe for long drives. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I just froze. Like grief, but worse, because you can't grieve people who are still alive and smiling with what they stole from you. I skipped dinner. I skipped every dinner after that. I stopped responding to the family group chat. I stopped joining them for meals. Just closed my door and watched the silence grow thicker every night. They never knocked. Not once. I guess in their minds, my role in the story was already finished. They got the money. They got the photos. I was just the invisible donor. But if they thought I'd stay silent forever, they didn't know me at all. I waited 2 weeks before saying anything. Not because I was calm, but because I needed to know they would come to me first, that maybe guilt would tap them on the shoulder and whisper, "You owe him something." But the only messages I got were forwarded memes in the group chat, and Melissa posting pictures with captions like, "Manifesting our dream house next." So I did the one thing I never thought I'd do. I gave them an ultimatum. I sent a text to both of my parents, short and controlled. You took $6,300 from my account without my consent. If it's repaid in full within 90 days, I won't escalate it further. Otherwise, I'll pursue legal options. My dad replied 2 hours later, "Are you seriously threatening your own parents? You're better than this." My mom followed with, "We've sacrificed so much for this family. Don't tear it apart over a misunderstanding." But the part that hurt most? Melissa chimed in with a separate message. "Grow up. You're embarrassing yourself." Embarrassing myself? They embarrassed me by treating me like a piggy bank they could crack open with guilt and entitlement. That night, I printed out every receipt, every bank statement, every text. I bought a $19 accordion folder and labeled each tab withdrawals, bank correspondence, family messages, account terms. I wasn't bluffing anymore. They had 90 days to do the right thing. But part of me already knew what was coming, because people who don't ask before stealing rarely apologize after. And when the 90th day passed without a single dollar repaid, I filed a claim in small claims court. Filing, the paperwork was weirdly quiet. No drama, no shouting, just a beige office, a bored clerk, and a $75 filing fee I paid with my own money. Again. I thought I'd feel anxious, maybe even guilty, but the truth, I felt clear for the first time in months, like drawing a solid line in permanent marker. You don't get to cross this anymore. I submitted everything. My account history, the bank documentation, even screenshots of texts from my parents dismissing me. The clerk glanced through and said, You've got a clean case. This happens more than you'd think. More than you'd think. That hit me harder than expected. 2 weeks later, the summons was issued. I didn't even warn them. Let the envelope deliver what I couldn't say anymore. 3 days after it arrived, my dad called me. No, hello, no, how are you? Just, you really went through with it? I didn't raise my voice. I just said, you gave me no choice. He scoffed. You know what this'll do to your mother? To your sister? You're making a scene. I responded, you made it a scene the moment you spent my money on champagne and spa days. He hung up. That night, my mom left a voicemail crying softly. We didn't mean to hurt you. We thought it was okay. You never said you needed the money urgently. Like that made it better. Like theft is only theft if the victim screams loud enough. I didn't call back. Instead, I circled the court date on my calendar, thick black marker, a quiet countdown to the day I'd finally get to speak, and they'd be forced to listen. The courtroom was small, with gray walls and folding chairs that creaked when you shifted. It felt more like a DMV than a battleground. But for me, this was war. I sat at the petitioner's table alone, dressed in the only suit I owned, still with creases from prom night. My parents walked in together, dressed like they were attending a brunch, not a lawsuit. My mom smiled nervously. My dad didn't even look at me. The judge called the case. I stood up and stated my name, hands steady but cold. My voice didn't shake. I'd practiced this moment in my head for weeks. My dad tried to charm the room first. We're his parents. We didn't steal. We simply used funds from a joint account that we had access to legally. The judge didn't flinch. Your son is now 25. Regardless of how the account was opened, the funds were his earnings. Did he consent to this withdrawal? My mom piped up. It was for his sister's wedding. We thought. The judge cut her off. So the answer is no. Silence. I passed up my printed documents, dates, transactions, the text messages where they dismissed me, the printed balance before and after. The judge read for what felt like forever, then looked directly at my parents. This court finds that you owe your son the full amount withdrawn, $6.21, 24, with interest. Judgment in favor of the plaintiff. My mom's face crumbled. She didn't cry, not yet, but the color drained from her face like someone had yanked the cord on her performance. My dad just stared straight ahead, jaw locked. They didn't say a word as they left. But I did. I whispered to myself, that's the first time they've ever had to listen to me. 3 days after the ruling, I got a DM from Melissa. No apology, no acknowledgement of what happened in court, just, hope you're happy. You broke Mom. You broke everything. Attached was a blurry screenshot, like she meant to send it to someone else, a banking app. 2 names at the top, my dad's and mine. But here's the thing, I didn't recognize the account number. I froze, then zoomed in. The balance was over $7,000. I called the bank immediately, heart pounding so loud I couldn't hear the hold music. When I got through, I asked them to check for any accounts linked to my name. The woman on the phone hesitated, then said, There's an auxiliary account under your profile. Opened 6 years ago. Joint authorization. 6 years ago, I was 19, first year of community college. I barely had money to my name. I asked her to send over a transaction history. My throat went dry as the email came in, line after line of deposits from side jobs I'd done in college. Tech repair gigs, tutoring, summer warehouse shifts. It was money I'd set up to be auto-deposited, thinking it was going to my main account. Instead, it had been rerouted to a ghost account my dad had kept open. Every dollar I thought I lost to weird fees or slow processing. It hadn't vanished. It had been taken. The next day, I filed a motion to reopen the case with amended documentation. This wasn't just about a wedding anymore. This was a pattern. A quiet robbery stretched over years. And now, I wasn't just asking for repayment. I was going after everything they stole. The moment my motion to reopen the case was approved, the group chat exploded. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. Word got around faster than wildfire at a family barbecue. My aunt posted first, "What the hell is wrong with you?" Then my uncle, "You're humiliating your parents." Over a few bucks. A few bucks. It was over $13,000 at this point. Money they siphoned from my side hustles while telling me to be more responsible. I stayed quiet until Melissa posted this gem. "Congratulations, you're officially the most selfish person in the family. Mom hasn't stopped crying. Hope it was worth it." I snapped. I replied once. Just once. "You all keep talking about what I've done to them, but none of you seem to care what they did to me. They stole from me for years, and you cheered them on." Silence. Then, a private message from my cousin Jade. She was always the quiet one at gatherings, never said much, always kept to herself. She wrote, "They did the same thing to my college fund, said they'd pay it back after Melissa's wedding. They never did." I stared at the message for a long time. It was like a crack in the wall I'd been banging my fists against for years. I wasn't alone. I was just the first one to push back hard enough to make it hurt. I thanked her and told her to keep records, everything she could find. Because this wasn't just about me anymore. This was a family pattern dressed in tradition. And I was done playing along with a lie that only ever served the loudest voices in the room. The courtroom was quieter the second time. No smug glances from my parents. No Melissa in a designer coat. Just 3 people who finally realized this wasn't going away with guilt trips and silence. I handed over the updated documents, my old side job pay stubs, the transfer history, the hidden accounts monthly statements showing years of deposits, money I never knew I had earned, rerouted without a word. The judge took one look at it all and sighed, like he'd seen this kind of betrayal one too many times. "This," he said, "is no longer a dispute. It's a deliberate pattern of financial misrepresentation. You are ordered to repay the full sum of $13th and $827.61 to your son within 45 days, court costs included." My mom's mouth dropped open. My dad stood up like he was about to argue, then just sat down again. I didn't flinch, I didn't smile, I just looked straight ahead. Outside the courthouse, Melissa was waiting. Arms crossed, eyes red. She walked straight up to me and said, "You're happy now. You ruined everything." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't flinch. "I didn't ruin anything," I said. "I just stopped pretending everything was okay." She scoffed, turned, and walked away without another word. That evening, I got an email from my mom. No subject line, just a single line. "We might lose the car. Are you satisfied?" I didn't respond. Because it was never about the car, or the money, or even the court dates. It was about being treated like I mattered, like I was more than a wallet with legs, and if this was the only way they'd ever understand that, I could live with it. A week later, a cousin tagged me in a story, probably by accident. It was Melissa's page. She and Tyler had posted a reel titled, "We had to cancel our honeymoon, here's why." I watched it on mute, my jaw tightening with every second. It was a mix of moody clips, sad piano music, and staged sighs. Melissa sat beside Tyler on a couch, dabbing her eyes while he ranted about how unexpected expenses ruined their dream trip to Italy. They blamed outside forces. They talked about betrayal from within. Not once did they say my name, but I didn't need them to. 2 days later, I heard through Jade that Tyler's parents had pulled out of their offer to co-invest in a new home. Financial instability, they said. Too much family drama. Melissa posted vague quotes like, "Some people are just jealous of your joy, and not everyone deserves your energy." Meanwhile, Tyler unfollowed me on everything, as if I was the one who lit the match. My mom called me sobbing again. "Can't you just drop it now? Haven't you done enough?" I asked her one thing. "Would you have ever paid me back if I hadn't gone to court?" Silence. Then she whispered, "We didn't think you'd go through with it." That answer was all I needed. They thought I was spineless, that I'd huff, puff, maybe sulk for a week, then get over it. That's what I'd always done. But this time, I wasn't just angry, I was awake. And the damage they were blaming me for, that wasn't mine to carry. I hadn't ruined the honeymoon. They'd just finally run out of people to rob. With the court ruling behind me and the repayment scheduled through monthly garnishments, I finally breathed without that pressure crushing my ribs. It was the first breath I'd taken in years that didn't taste like guilt or second place. I used the first payout installment to put down a deposit on a modest apartment. 1 bedroom, creaky floors, and a kitchen light that flickered like it had trust issues. But it was mine. I bought a reliable used car. Not flashy, but the engine purred like it was grateful to be driven by someone who earned it. The dealership guy tried to upsell me. I just smiled and said, "No thanks. I know exactly what I need and nothing more." I picked up extra freelance work, fixing laptops and tutoring local students in tech basics. Turns out, the same patience I used to survive my family made me a damn good teacher. Clients started referring me. I wasn't just surviving, I was quietly thriving. I blocked my parents and Melissa on everything. Not out of spite, but because healing can't grow where the rot still lingers. And yeah, some nights I missed what I wished we could have been. Birthday dinners that didn't feel like comparison traps. Conversations that weren't backhanded lessons in obedience. A sister who didn't treat me like background music to her main stage. But most nights I sat by my small window with my own coffee in my own space and felt something better than peace. I felt free, because I finally stopped waiting for them to see my value and started living like I already knew it. It came on my birthday, not a call, not a card, just an email. Subject line, "From Mom, please read." I stared at it for a while, just the preview visible on my phone screen. My hands didn't shake this time. My chest didn't tighten. That was new. Eventually, I opened it. It started with nostalgia. Childhood photos she found while cleaning. Mentions of my favorite cereal, my kindergarten drawing of a race car, the time I cried over a scraped knee and she held me. All the greatest hits, the weaponized warmth. Then came the guilt. Families make mistakes. You'll understand when you have children. We only ever wanted the best for all of you. There was no apology, no ownership, just a soft rewrite of history where everyone meant well and I overreacted. She ended with, "Melissa misses you. We all do. Come home for dinner sometime. Let's move on." I sat there for a long time, rereading it, waiting for some emotion to rise, rage, regret, even longing. But nothing came. Just stillness. I archived the email without replying. No dramatic deletion, no last word, just silence. Because some messages aren't meant to be answered. And some doors don't need slamming, they just need to stay closed. Later that night, I tucked the printed email into a box at the back of my closet. It sits there next to the court papers and bank statements. Not as a wound, just a reminder. A reminder that healing doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's just the quiet choice to leave the past unopened. Winning in court didn't make me feel whole again. That's the part people don't talk about. Justice doesn't fix the loneliness. It doesn't replace the birthdays spent pretending, or the childhood memories now blurred with resentment. But it gave me something I never had before: permission to stop begging. I no longer had to shrink myself to keep the peace. I no longer had to measure my worth by how useful I was to people who only saw me as a safety net. These days, I live quietly. I started a blog under a pseudonym, just writing about financial boundaries, family loyalty, and how hard it is to walk away from people you still love. One post got picked up by a small newsletter. Then a podcast reached out. Someone called me brave, but I don't think that's the word. I think I just got tired. Tired of watching myself disappear in rooms filled with people who should have seen me first. I haven't spoken to my family in almost a year. Not because I hate them, but because I love myself enough now not to chase their approval anymore. Sometimes I pass by the old house on my way to a client's place, curtains still drawn, same dent in the mailbox, and for a second the ache returns. But then I remember, that version of me lived there, not this one. This version knows what boundaries cost and what peace is worth. And for anyone wondering if I regret taking them to court, let me say this. They taught me that loyalty without limits is just servitude, and I taught them that some sons don't stay silent. I may have walked away alone, but I didn't walk away empty.